It's New Year's Day and the first video of 2021. Thankfully, we got 2020 behind us. I'm sure 2021's got to be better. You know, it was 2020 was an excellent year for us, for this channel. We grew. We really had a fantastic year, and we're grateful to all of you guys for helping to make that happen for us. I know a lot of you guys right now are under, some parts of this country are under lockdown. You get these wacky governors and you know, I'm sorry, but life goes on. And so do our projects and our builds. And this is how I spent the last day of 2020, putting the final touches on our Slant 6 for the Plan Z Dart. So this thing is, right now, it's set to just literally drop in, crank it, and she should light right off. The high points of this motor, we didn't weigh the actual units. It wasn't practical, but this engine by component weight and what we've taken off it and so on and so forth is approximately 70 pounds lighter than the one that was in the car before. From the bottom up, it has an oil pan. We did a whole video earlier last year. Did a whole video on building the windage tray for the oil pan, so it's got windage trays and baffles built into it. It's got the lighter weight late crank, the 81 and up crankshaft, the narrow rods to go with that. With the material that was taken off the deck and the head, the compression ratio works out to approximately 11:1 static compression. Had to make a set of push rods for it because, well, you know, you take almost a quarter inch off the deck, the push rods aren't going to work. So I had some stock. I made a set of push rods for it. That's all good to go. We used 340 valve springs. The 340 valve springs fit the stock pocket in the head perfectly. But there's height differences when you use the stock valves. So even at 500 lift, I'm at almost just under a hair under 100 thousandths wire clearance. So it's close to coil bind. Like I couldn't go 550, 560 without getting into coil bind. But I think this camera is going to be adequate. We used, just an off-the-shelf Offenhauser intake, which we had on the engine. It was in there before. It works fine. All I did with it is just clean up the inside. There's no porting or anything like that involved in it. The carburetor is, right away, a lot of you guys are going to be like, it's too big! No, it's a 750 vacuum secondary Holley. But remember, here, right now, it's a 375 CFM 2-barrel. And if I do this, well, if I put this back, now it's however much it wants to pull from the secondaries. So, and I don't anticipate it's going to pull a lot from the secondaries, but what we'll do is we'll do all of the initial running in and braking and everything as a 2-barrel, and then start to give it secondary and see what it wants. Hooker big tube headers. These are bigger in diameter by about 1/4 of an inch, and I think would be ideal, but they're the only long tube headers that are available for this. They're 3-into-1 each. I may fabricate a Y pipe for this to feed them through a single collector, but I'm going to put it in the car and see how it runs first, see what we get out of it. And the only thing we're waiting now, put this in the car and get it running, is I've got to clean up and just detail underneath the hood. So that'll be good to go. We'll drop the motor in, and then John Wilburn's building that transmission for us. We still haven't decided what we're going to do for a converter yet. And I'm thinking we're going to need something that's going to go at around 4,000 RPM, but it's going to have to like freewheel up to that because I don't see this motor making enough bottom end torque to really work a converter. So that's in the works, and that'll be the next step on this project. So projects. So let's give you guys a rundown on what we're doing, what we've already got planned, and what we've been gathering parts for this coming year. So you know we already talked about the Magnum headed 273, and the block is on the stand over there, and we're still gathering parts. That'll happen sometime in the spring. We're doing a mild 383, a street strip 383 that's going to go into our Gambler car, which I should be working on today. You guys have no idea how beautiful it is out here right now. I don't know where you are, right? But here in Nashville, it's like 70 degrees, it's sunny, it's just gorgeous, right? So we had a break. Hopefully this is an omen for the rest of the year. But that's going to get a 383, and we'll probably start putting that engine together towards the end of February into March. And the plan is to have that car running by September. So it's a little bit of a long-term project that's going to go. beginning tomorrow, there's a lot of interest. I have to go by viewership interest. There's a lot of interest in the 318. It's such a common engine, and it's such an underrated engine. And so beginning tomorrow, we're going to take a deep dive into the 318, and we're going to start off by making direct comparisons to the 340, which is like the universally loved engine. It's the universally accepted giant killer. Well, we're going to actually lay out the exact differences between the 318 and the 340, and I think you guys are going to be surprised by what we show you. And we'll be building that 318. Now, if you remember, the engine that's in Bottle Rocket, if you followed the build from the beginning, you know what's in there. But for you guys who haven't, you got to keep this in mind. Minus the valve train, the cam lifters, push rods, and valve springs. Minus the gaskets. Minus the intake, carb, and headers. We have exactly $12 in that engine. I mean, that's complete. Like, that's the entire long block assembly. Block, crank, pistons, rods, everything. The cylinder heads, $12. It's a $12 engine. And we put it together as a mule because we know we're going to end up scattering the thing. We wanted to see what was going to break, find out what the weak links are on that engine before we built a good one. Well, we haven't heard it yet because we haven't really used it yet. But we're going to get a head start and start building our good 318. That'll be a steel crank motor with good pistons and all of that. And we'll start on that. Well, it'll be a whole series, but we'll kick it off with the with that 318 versus 340 video. So it'll be up tomorrow or the next day. What else? A lot of you guys ask about the Roadrunner that's in the garage, the blue 383 Roadrunner. It's actually a 400 in there. We haven't done anything with that car on this channel because that's a project that we completed like 10 years ago. And to me, it just doesn't, if I just take the car out and just do burnouts with the thing, it doesn't fit like the theme of the channel. We like to show what you can do with as little as possible. So with that said, what we're going to do, and we've already rounded up all of the parts, we're going to do a 451 stroker for it. If you've seen our previous videos where we shoot in the garage, there's an engine on the stand, which is it's actually just an empty block. It's 400 block. It's got a set of race-ported 906s sitting on top of it, and that's a dual quad motor. So we're going to build that. We have all the parts for it, but we're going to do a step-by-step build on that, and then we'll do a back-to-back comparison between the 400 that's in the Roadrunner now, which is a good runner motor, and that stroker. So we'll have a back-to-back 400 versus 400 with the 440 crank in it. And but you won't see that. We won't be doing anything with that probably until the end of the summer, probably fall of this coming year. And what else is there? I think that covers all of our working projects, all of the stuff that we're cranking on as we go along. So that's it for now. I hope you all have an awesome 2021. It's got to be better than the last one, right? I think it would be less bad, but more weird. And you know what happens, right? When the going gets weird, the weird turn pro. We're on it. See you tomorrow.